There was a time that my family, me and my sisters, were held at gunpoint by men that were looking for my dad. I was only 7 years old. My sister was only 12. I didn't understand it. I just saw my mom falling apart little by little, moment by moment. And I saw things that children should have never been a witness to. Because addiction isn't just drugs and alcohol. There's sex addiction, food addiction, work addiction, there's emotional addiction. Anything that numbs what we're not ready to face can become an addiction. You can allow God to rewrite your story too, but it begins with surrender. Hey family, pull up a seat, let's have the conversation. When I think about my childhood, it's funny the things that stay. Not the expensive stuff, not the big moments, but the images that stamp themselves on the inside of me. And one of those memories is about one pair of pants. One pair of pants that held an entire household together. My mother was a single parent who did everything, and I mean everything. She cooked, she cleaned, she raised three girls on her own, she managed a building, she was the neighborhood protector, the one who hid us when men came looking to hurt my dad because of the life choices he made, while she was also battling her own struggles in silence. She didn't wear dresses, she wore the pants every day because softness was a luxury she couldn't afford. And when you've been raised by a woman like that, you grow up thinking strength has a shape, it has a voice, it has a posture, and it has pants. I don't have many memories of my dad outside of prison visits and short lived moments when he lived with us. During our prison visits, we would dress up beautifully, hair done, jewelry on point, only for the police officer to say, "You gotta take it all off," and then search us. After the search was done and every one of our belongings was locked up, they would then bring him out, chained hands and feet, and they'd never call him by his name. He was called by a number. I'll never forget that. They called number so and so, so and so, so and so, whatever those numbers were. And then out came my dad. My mom would say to us, "This is where dad goes to school." But I knew something was wrong by the way they handled him as if he wasn't even human. It was scary. It was dark. I mean, who wants to go to school in chains? Before he was in prison, there was a time that my family, me and my sisters, were held at gunpoint by men that were looking for my dad. I was only 7 years old. My sister was only 12. I didn't understand it. I just saw my mom falling apart little by little, moment by moment. And I saw things that children should have never been a witness to. The part that still surprises me is even with all of the chaos and all of the losses that we felt as kids, I felt so loved by my dad. I felt deeply loved by him. The scarce moments didn't define what was passed down in the little bit of time I had with him. I remember my dad teaching me how to play the congas. I remember his passion for singing and the way he would serenade my mom and dance with her. And we'd watch thinking, oh my gosh, hopeless romantics, right? Hoping this version of him, the sober one, would stay. My father was the one who taught me how to pray, actually. He introduced me to Psalm 91 and would tell me, whenever you feel afraid, you just pray and read this. Not because I believed in God, but because I believed Him. We were Catholics who practiced Santeria, a religion that terrified me. My earliest association with God was fear, but we'll talk about that in another episode. My father, he was funny, he was creative, an incredible artist, gifted in almost everything. He played every instrument, self taught. He had a voice full of passion and soul. I didn't know his story, but one thing I did know is that he loved me. My father wasn't the enemy, heroin was. Addiction was the battle of his life, the monster that followed him from room to room. He hid it well. When he was high, he would slide down against the wall, slow motion all the way down, and then jerk back up. And we thought it was hilarious. We thought he was playing with us. We didn't know it was a symptom. We thought it was a performance. Eventually, addiction won. At 40 years old, my father passed away of AIDS. That changed me for the rest of my life. And I want to stop right here for a moment. If you have ever lost someone to addiction, I want to say I know your pain and I sincerely pray for healing for your heart. If you've ever loved someone who struggles with addiction, you need to know they're not trying to hurt you. They're not choosing destruction over love. They don't wake up planning to ruin your life or your peace. Addiction hijacks the brain. It rewires the reward system. It distorts decision making. It numbs shame by creating more of it. People dealing with addiction are not villains. They are people in pain and people in chains. Families also carry compassion, resilience, loyalty, and a depth of love that is unmatched. But here's what breaks my heart and what I need every listener to hear. Children who grow up exposed to addiction are twice as likely to battle addiction themselves. If two parents struggle, the risk climbs 3 or 4 times higher. Not because they're weak, not because they're doomed, but because trauma leaves fingerprints and biology remembers what the heart tries to forget. My father's addiction and the way my mother handled it taught me this. Compassion doesn't mean denial. Tough love doesn't mean abandonment. Consistency is the love language of people in chaos. Addiction is a disease, not a definition. And today I have deep compassion for families battling addiction because I was one of them. What I didn't understand then was that the seeds of addiction get planted quietly. And later in life, I found myself fighting my own battle with alcohol. I was functioning, I worked hard, I excelled, but I was numbing pain I never stopped long enough to feel. I justified my behavior, convincing myself, well, at least it isn't heroin. Addiction doesn't always look like chaos. Sometimes it looks like competence. Sometimes it looks like a strong one. Sometimes it looks like the person who gets everything done. So if you are listening to this and you are the one battling addiction, or if someone you love is buried under it, please hear me when I say, they're not your enemy. You're not their enemy. They're not choosing hurt over love. They're choosing survival over shame and continuing to choose them with boundaries, with compassion, and consistency might be the lifeline they need. Because addiction isn't just drugs and alcohol. There's sex addiction, there's food addiction, there's work addiction, there's emotional addiction. Anything that numbs what we're not ready to face can become an addiction. If you're struggling with addiction, don't stay silent. Look for resources that will help you to get to the other side. One of the things that I did is I actually decided to go into a program and get the help that I needed. And that was the beginning of life on the other side of addiction. The difference between my dad and I is that I had the opportunity to go into a program. I said yes. I said no more to the addiction, and I said yes to being clean. And it has been 27 years. I thank God that my story did not end the way my father's did, but it's been 27 years that I have been clean. And never once have I ever felt that I wanted to go back. You can allow God to rewrite your story too, but it begins with surrender. I had to leave everything I knew behind. Everything, my apartment, my job, my friends, the things that made me feel comfortable, the proximity to the drugs and alcohol that I had access to receive everything He placed in front of me. If any of this resonates with you, there are so many resources today, so many programs that can help you get to the other side. I want to encourage you, don't be silent, don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid to talk to your family. They want you to open up. Don't be afraid to open up to a pastor, a friend, someone who could help you get the help that you need. Now, I want to hear from you. I want to hear your story, your thoughts, the parts that stirred something in you. Drop a comment below because your voice may open a future episode. Like, share, and subscribe. Let's continue the conversation.